Good evening. Late one tonight, but we're going to do it. I was planning on getting started much earlier, but then I forgot that the draft was happening tonight. So, yeah, I kind of stayed up. I kind of waited to start streaming until the LA Rams had made their draft pick. Let's see, late one this evening. If you are around, come chill. All right, what are we doing tonight? Tonight we are doing more model context protocol stuff. I did, however, figure out my issue from the other day, which is good because I was a little blocked on it. Let's make this a little bigger. It's kind of a hacky solution, honestly, but it was the only thing I could figure out how to get it to work. So I added a little comment of why I'm doing this. Because this is actually kind of dumb that I have to do this. But if I don't do this, if I don't wrap this schema like this in an object, for whatever reason, every time I try to use this tool in a client, it passes the filter as a string instead of an object, which is kind of painful. So this is my solution. But yeah, I think tonight what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at my test coverage and we're going to try to get caught up with my test coverage. All right. Here we go. npm run test coverage, just like that. All right, we got some work to do here. I see a lot of red. I see a lot of red. Hey, what's up, Rage? How are you? Good to see you, man. Hope you are doing well. I'm assuming you wanted to say hi. Your message got retracted, but yeah, there we go. Yo, what's up, man? How are you? Good, yeah. Everything's well here, dude. Let's see. Today was a little bit busy. Went into the office. Couldn't do the work from home life, so I had to actually go into the office today. But that was fine. I got to see some coworkers. Went and had some good Kansas City barbecue for lunch. What else? Oh, the NFL draft was tonight, so that was a lot of fun to watch. I actually didn't. The reason why I'm streaming so late is because I wanted to see who the Los Angeles Rams picked before I started streaming. But then right as the Los Angeles Rams got on the clock, they traded their pick. So that was kind of dumb. But it was fun to watch the other guys get drafted. I'm kind of surprised that Shador Sanders is still on the board, honestly. I don't know if anybody else here is an NFL football fan, but The draft is a fun thing. Hello, Code Brew. How are you doing? Good to see you, man. Good to see us. All right, I guess the first thing we should do here is just start picking off some test coverage, huh? I'm actually gonna open. I'm gonna open one more tab here, and we're gonna do the same. We're gonna go to the same place. Although now we're gonna do npx live server, and we're gonna serve the coverage folder. All right, we're just gonna start trying to work through. Oh, actually, we can ignore the build. We should ignore the build folder. Let's see, coverage. Only include source. There we go. Hold on, why didn't that? Oh, there we go. There we go. All right, so we should just, I'm just going to start trying to pick off these, the things we haven't covered. Nope, never watched football in my life. Working on the MCP server. Never watched football in your life. Dang, that's pretty intense. Working on the MCP server again? I am. Yep. I did solve that issue that I ran into the other night. So now I'm just working on adding test coverage because I kind of fell behind on writing tests. So I'm going to try to get my test coverage caught back up, and then I'll move on to my final tool. So, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to export some of these functions, and I'm just going to test them directly because nobody says I can't. So I'm just going to do it. Let's see, I need to test several of the cases in format rule. So let's go filter.spec. Let's see. We are gonna do describe format what? Format rule. Let's see, we're gonna say test. Let's see. It should throw an error if rule field is not found. Sebastian, what are you working on? Sebastian, I'm writing tests right now, Sebastian, but the thing I'm writing tests for is it's a model context protocol server. So I can kind of show you what it does. So what it does is basically I can make an MCP client, something like Claude Desktop. I can make it reach out to another service called OnSpring and pull data from that other service is what if you're not familiar either with Model Context Protocol Server, that might be a whole thing I need to explain. But basically what my server does is it basically augments the functionality that MCP clients have to provide them access to another piece of software. And in this case, what it'll do is it'll allow me to like retrieve certain pieces of data about that other piece of software. So I can say things like, what apps do I have in my OnSpring instance? And then Claude wouldn't normally be able to know how to connect to an OnSpring instance, but because I wrote a MCP server, it will know how to get that information. So you can see it went out to that third-party service, it got the names of all the apps, and it returned it to me. And so the idea here is like over time you should be able to build up information in this context window, and then you can talk to Claude about that data. There's all right, well, did this work? Did it resume? Oh yeah, nice. Okay, well, I don't know if anyone's still here, but technical difficulties. My computer did that the other day too, where it just kind of shut off. I was cold and now I'm hot. Well, am I still connected? Am I still connected? I have no idea what's happening right now. Someone tell me if they can hear me. I am dang it. It's never fun when you have technical difficulties. Three, two. Is that better? There we go. Alright. I guess I should figure out if I'm still live. Let's see. It looks like I'm connected, but I think my camera's lagged out. I don't know if my computer's like overheating and shutting off or what, but I'm going through it tonight. Let's see. I just wanna stream. Hello, Boston. Well, I guess it's good that Boston's here because that means that my stream is still up and running. I just wanna stream. Here we go. Okay, we're live again. I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties. I apologize. Code Brew says, "Hey, you're back." Yeah, sorry about that, Code Brew. I was going through it there for a second. I'm not sure if my computer was getting too hot and just crapping out or what, but it just kept turning off. Poor Sebastian. I was trying to demo for Sebastian what the heck I was doing. Thank you, Boston. I appreciate you, man. Alright. Where was I? Oh, I was over here. I'm writing tests. That's what I was trying to do. I was like, what the heck was I doing before all that happened? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the case we're trying to account for here is, let's say, rule equals this. Nice. There we go. Look. Took care of that missing code coverage. Nice. I'm doing good, Boston Sports Cards. I'm doing well. How are you doing, man? I saw the Celtics have been playing pretty well. Artwork Studios. Hello, Artwork Studios. How are you doing? Copilot looks quite handy. It really is. Artwork Studios. It will save you a lot of boilerplate typing. Like, if you don't like to write tests, you should get yourself Copilot, because Copilot will save you a lot of time. I like to write tests, so it's like a double benefit, because I enjoy writing tests and Copilot helps me. Boston, do you remember Clay? I do remember Clay. He was actually here the other day in one of the streams. Go Celtics. Yes, indeed. Go Celtics. Let's see. It should return a string without a value when value is null. Zhu Ju Shin. Is this NeoVim with some kind of plugin from PS, not WPSL, or not WSL2? It's not WSL. I do have WSL set up. I just don't use NeoVim from it. I use NeoVim on the Windows host. And then I'm running it in PowerShell, correct. PowerShell is my shell of choice on the Windows terminal. Works pretty good though. I've been happy with it. Artwork Studio sounds efficient. Well, anyways, how are you? Yeah, it is efficient, and I'm doing good, man. Life's good. Today was a little weird. I had to go into the office, so my normal streaming schedule was all kind of whack. No work from home, you know. But it was good. I got to see some colleagues from out of town. We had Kansas City barbecue for lunch. Talked a lot about work and our business. And I mean, not like that it's my business, but just like where we work at, right? The business in that sense. Yeah, it was good. It was good. And then got to come home, hang out with the family, watch the NFL draft. Just a lot of fun. I love football. I don't think that's something I've ever shared really on stream, but like that was like my number one sport growing up, number one sport in high school. So I love me some football. Code Brew, you make me want to start streaming. Do it, man. Why not? You know what I mean? The world needs lots of small creators, dude, so fire it up. Artwork Studios, not me always asking the same question. Dude, that's all life is, you know? We're all just checking in with each other every day. It's good. It's good, man. Boston, who did the Rams pick in the draft? Because I know they're your favorite team. Actually, Boston, they traded. They traded out of the first round. They gave their pick to Atlanta, which I think Atlanta didn't have a first round pick, and Atlanta traded up into the first round, and the Rams went back. The Rams went back to the second round, and they got Atlanta's first round pick next year. So, I see. That's neat. Yeah, it's very cool. I've had a lot of people come into the chat and be like, is this a Windows user in PowerShell using NeoVim? Yeah. Let's see. Mini Read from KC. I am Mini Read. I'm not from KC. I live in Kansas City, in a suburb of Kansas City. I'm originally from a smaller town in about 3 hours south of Kansas City in Missouri called Joplin, Missouri. I don't know if you're familiar with any of this Mini Read, but yeah. Artwork Studios, did you have fun? Yeah, as much fun as you can have at work. But I like the people I work with. The people I work with are great people. They make the job half as fun as it is. Wowie, what language is this? This is TypeScript. Wowie, this is TypeScript. Hello, Sam. Late stream. Yes, Sam. I was just saying I had a weird day today. I had to go into the office for work, and so there was no office hour stream. There was no lunchtime stream. The day was filled with meetings. Boston Sports Cards. Oh, okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, I saw the Patriots. They drafted an offensive tackle from LSU. Seemed like a good pickup for them. Fucking crashed again. That's a great username, dude. Kudos on the username. Good day. What's your server going to interface with? So my server is going to interface with a piece of software called OnSpring. It's our GRC platform, a governance, risk, and compliance platform. It's made by the company I work for. So I'm making the MCP server wrap our public API, and mostly because I just know our public API really well, but I don't know much about MCP servers, so I wanted to kind of focus on building an MCP server around something I already knew. So that's what it'll do. Mini Read, yo, nice. Yeah, I live about 2 hours south of KC. Oh, nice. Mini Read, where are you at? If you don't mind me asking. I bet I'm familiar with it. Wow, he looks like C++. Really? You think this looks like... I haven't written any much C++, but I'm surprised that this looks like C++. The Pats got Will Campbell. I wish we hadn't beat Buffalo and lost the #1 pick, but hope we can protect Drake May. Yeah, exactly, man. That's what you gotta do. You know, I mean, right now, like I would say the two most important positions in professional football right now are offensive linemen and defensive linemen. I mean, if you look at what happened in the Super Bowl, right, that just totally seals the deal. Wowie. Oh, TypeScript. Yes, indeed, we are writing TypeScript. Mini read. Red Kingdom, baby. Yeah, it is Red Kingdom for sure. I'm a Los Angeles Rams fan myself. I grew up being a big fan of the St. Louis Rams. So my dad and my brother were always Chiefs fans. And when I was about 9, I got tired of rooting for a team that always lost all the time. Right? So I switched over. I guess I would have been more like 6 or 7. Right around the time the Greatest Show on Turf was a thing, I kind of decided I was going to be a Rams fan, and I just stuck with it. Fucking crashed again. Nice. Yeah, nice indeed. Techno Stiper. Python? Nah, it's TypeScript. Yeah, what Wowie said. Mini read. Fort Scott, Kansas. Oh, mini read. I've been there many a time. Drive through there every time I head back to Joplin. I don't know, mini read, if you're familiar with Joplin, Missouri, but we drive through Fort Scott every time to go back home to visit. Played baseball in Fort Scott a lot growing up, actually. Played a lot of baseball there. Techno Sniper. Cool. I know nothing about scripting. That's okay, Techno Sniper. You can just hang out. Enjoy the vibes, man. Just chill with us. You don't have to know anything about programming or coding. This reminds me of that one time where someone asked what types were. Fair enough. Boston Sports says, I gotta go tonight. Have a great night. Great day tomorrow. You too, Boston. Thanks for stopping in, man. I appreciate you checking in with us. It's very kind of you. All right. So the next test is I'm gonna say. Let's see. It should format date rules correctly. I know, very descriptive. Let's see, const rule. Actually, let's do new date dot to ISO string like that, and then we'll say const fields. Yes, it should be type date. Convert it. Oh, yep. Oh, and you guys can't see this right now, but I'm looking at a test coverage report, and I'm basically just going through and covering all the areas that aren't covered right now by my tests, on my way to trying to get a decent test coverage. Wowie, let's hold on. Let me go back here. Have you got it hooked up to Claude or something? Got a second for a quick demo? Yeah, I can show you. It's hooked up to Claude. I was actually trying to demo this a minute ago, and then my computer crashed in the middle of it. Let me just start a new chat here. So, okay, so here's the backstory. Fucking crashed again. Every time I say that username, I want to laugh. So the backstory behind OnSpring is like a no-code platform. So people can create apps, they can create surveys, they can basically implement any type of solution that they need to facilitate their business. So if you think, you can kind of think of it, if you're familiar with like Salesforce or ServiceNow, very much in the same line of functionality. And so what my model context protocol server does is basically allows you to reach into that software and pull out data about what's in your instance of that software, right? So you can do things like, what apps do I have access to in my OnSpring instance? And obviously it's going to do its thing. Like, I've got a tool in there so that it can check the connection to OnSpring to make sure it can actually reach out and connect to the API. And then I've got a tool that gets all the apps from it, which is kind of cool. And then the idea here is then you can start, asking more questions, right? So you could say something like, could you tell me what reports are available for the users app? Because that's one of the apps I know is in there that I have access to. And then it should pull back a list of reports, which it does. And then I can say, okay, could you get me the data for the users by status report, right? And then it can get the data for that report. Yeah, it just kind of goes on like that, right? So it's like there's already an existing public API, right? And so all I'm doing is kind of wrapping around it this LLM interface or abstraction around that public API. So that's all. And that's what a lot of the MCP servers do anyways. Like if you look at the MCP servers for, GitHub or the file system, right? They all are kind of in that same vein. Mini Read, yeah, I've been to Joplin a few times. Did you live there when the tornado hit? Yep, actually, Mini Read, if you're still here, I graduated high school in 2011 on the day the big tornado ran through Joplin. So it was pretty crazy experience. Luna, coding is goated. I feel the same way, Luna. Wowie, may I ask what IDE you use? Wowie, right now I'm primarily using NeoVim. Artwork Studios also agrees. Oh, Sam already answered what NeoVim. Thank you, Sam, for jumping in there. Appreciate you. Sam's jumped in there a couple times now. Yeah, Isaac, yeah, this is TypeScript, not C++. But interesting, you're the second person that has said it looks like C++. So maybe it's because I'm editing it in NeoVim it looks that way? I don't know. I haven't written much C++, so I don't know if TypeScript and C++ actually share a lot of aesthetic similarities. Isaac, is this for a web page or app? It's for, Isaac, this is for a model context protocol server. And if you're not familiar with what that is, I'm happy to elaborate, but that's what it's for. Wowie. Wow, I never knew that NeoVim can look this good. I'll try it. Yeah, you should give it a try, Wowie. It's been pretty fun. I've been using it since January. I was a long-time VS Code user, and then I recently switched over to NeoVim, and it's been fun. Arkin, hello. Hello, Arkin, how are you? Good to see you again, man. Artwork Studios. In fact, how do you hook it up to Claude? So the way you hook it up to Claude is... the way you hook up your MCP server to Claude and I think all the MCP clients have very similar situations, but you have to basically edit. What is it? It's like, here we go. Basically, you have to find where Claude Desktop stores the data, where it stores its data. In Windows, it's stored here. Maybe different on Mac or Linux. I don't even know if Claude Desktop works on Linux. Maybe it does. But basically, you have to find that directory, and then in that directory, you create a file called Claude Desktop Config, and then in here, if I can close that. Oh, nope, that's not what I want to do. Close that. In here, you set up your MCP servers. So you can set them up just locally. You know, if you have local files or a local one that you've written, you can also install them, you know, and you do the same thing. Tell it the command, the path of the thing you want to run, the arguments you want to provide, and then Claude does all the rest to discover the tools and whatnot. It's pretty handy. Let's see. Sam, wow, I've got a series on my channel if you're interested. NeoVim setup or Typecraft NeoVim for noobs is a good one to follow along. Yeah, I agree with that. What Sam said, Isaac, if you're interested, NeoVim for noobs is great. Or actually, I think it was Wowie that was interested. NeoVim for noobs would be where I'd point you. Isaac, is NeoVim some sort of IDE? It's more of a text editor, Isaac, but you can configure that. You can extend it to where it's sort of like an IDE, right? So you can almost make it on parity with VS Code. You just have to work a little harder at it. Artwork Studios, okay, bye guys. I'm gonna go now. Steven's streams are always goated. Thanks, Artwork Studios. I appreciate that, man. Have a good night, dude. Let's see, fucking crashed again. If you hadn't listed the apps you have access to, does MCP figure that out, or the chat session needs to learn it? The chat session needs to learn it. So basically every MCP server just provides responses to the client, and the client takes those responses and sticks them into the context window. So, I mean, obviously probably clients could implement their own way to persist sessions maybe across, or persist data across sessions. But like in the context of Claude Desktop, every time I start a new chat session, I'd have to ask it for what apps I have access to, or you know, get the report data, right, to put that information back in the context window. Yeah, I kind of agree with Sam. Maybe NeoVim wouldn't be great if you're just getting started with coding. I think Vim Motions would be great for anybody to learn. But yeah. Arc, an extensible text editor. Yes, it is an extensible text editor. I like that. Fucking crashing. So I'd assume the protocol instance boot can feed it data to give it a head start. I don't honestly know about protocol instance boot. I don't think it's meant to be stateful, right? That's up to the client, I think. Right? The server basically just says, the server basically just tells the client, hey, there are these things that I can do, right? And then it describes the tool or the resources, right? Or I think it's tools, resources, prompts, and I think there might be one other thing, but tools, resources, and prompts, and then it basically says these are things I have, or things I can get, or things I can do, and then that is passed in through the client when the user is chatting with the LLM, basically included as part of that conversation to say, hey, as this user's talking with you, be aware you also have the ability to read the file system, or fetch data from GitHub, or in this case, fetch data from OnSpring. And then those tools also say, in order to fetch that data, or in order to talk to that GitHub API, you need to provide these pieces of information. And the LLM generates those inputs. Like when Claude kicks it off, can it figure out your apps and refer to that context straight away? Yeah. I mean, essentially that's what's happening. Yeah, that's what, like, when... Well, I guess I should say, like, that's what's happening right here. Is like I asked it for the apps from OnSpring, and it said, "Oh, okay, I see I have a Get Apps tool," and then it made the request, and then it just dumped all that data back into the context window. But there's no way to just have this information just be persisted all the time, to where, like, every time you start a chat message, Claude already knows about these apps. That's not a thing at the moment, or at least in Claude Desktop, that is not a thing. Maybe you could implement an MCP client that, like, persists knowledge across chat sessions, but that's not a thing that Claude Desktop does. Daddy Lorenzo. Well, if your username is any indication of what this question might be, you are more than happy to fucking crap. Well, it should be. Yeah. I mean, that would be really nice. But I think you also have to consider, right, like, there'd also be a way to be like, that also introduces this idea of, like, then the data's stale, right? It's like, oh, if you got the apps for the instance, like, an hour ago, right? Should it then not get the apps brand new? I think that should probably be left up to the server, right? And the client should just always fetch brand new information when you ask for it. Like, I've thought about implementing that, like, on my server. Like, I should probably have, like, if somebody's talking to Claude Desktop or they're talking to the MCP client and they're hitting, like, they're asking for the same information again and again. Why they would do that, I don't know. But I should probably have some mechanism to, like, cache that in memory for some amount of time, because there's no sense in making more requests to the API, because it's unlikely that, like, they're gonna have added a new app within the last 5 minutes of their conversation. But probably not like a big need for what I'm trying to build. Daddy, please. Daddy Lorenzo, please feel free to ask whatever weird question you'd like to ask. I may ignore it, but you're welcome to ask it. Nice. Yeah, neither, Daddy Lorenzo. Very, very odd question. Landon Russell. Hello, Landon Russell. How are you? I've never actually seen somebody spell Landon that way. Melise Home. What am I programming? Melise Home, I'm programming something called a model context protocol server. And if you'd like to know more about what exactly that is, you can head over to modelcontextprotocol.io. But at a very high level, it's essentially a API that sort of is built with an LLM as the first consumer in mind, right? So instead of having an API that's built for a developer to program against, this is an API that's more meant for an LLM app to use. That's not really an accurate description, but I think that's the best mental model to try to make sense of it. Let's see, fucking crashing. I guess I'm thinking more about the protocol. It seems like you have to ask a question in order to feed the context for your next question. That could get tedious. Yeah, it could. Yeah, most definitely. So that's the way I demoed it for you, very much, right? But you could also come in, like, I could also have just came into the I could just start a new, let me just start a new conversation. Like I could just start a new conversation and say, if I already know about things in my instance, right? Say I don't need to figure out what apps, I don't need to figure out what, um, like if I don't need to make calls to get that information I already know. I could say something like, um, get me all the records in my users app, um, whose full name field equals Stephen Freeborn, right? Like I could just come in and do that, and then the LLM would just pick a tool, um, and try to figure out how to get to that result. Um, and in this case, it's decided it needs to make sure that there's a user's app, and then it needs to figure out what fields it wants to get, and now it's gonna figure out, it's gonna make a query against the API. So in this case, it used 3 tools, but it probably could have used 1 if it wanted to. But yeah, I get what you're saying about it kind of feeling tedious. It definitely could come across that way. Lorenzo, I was not bullied in school, if you can believe it or not. I would describe myself much more as a bully of bullies, if you can believe that. Landon, I'm passionate about programming. Well, that's awesome, man. Me too. I love programming. Suhas, I have a confession. Yes, Suhas, please confess. Melise Home, that's cool. I'm in college working with C++, but I'm struggling a bit. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm hoping the struggles aren't too bad, you know? I hope it's just like normal, everyday learning type of struggles that you're dealing with. I also appreciate you asking Lorenzo if he's okay. Unique UX. Hey, what's up, Unique UX? Good to see you in the chat, man. Hope you're doing well. Lorenzo, say it, Suhas. Dude, Lorenzo's a little aggressive. Unique UX. He's basically building the future, okay? Yeah, something like that. Okay, cool. So a tool knows an app name and figures it out. Okay, cool. The AI magic is getting it done. Yeah, exactly. Like the AI could just infer, right? It could infer things, or it could not infer things, right? That's sort of like the unpredictable and probabilistic nature of an LLM, right? It could say, "Oh yeah, I know how to do this," right? And it could just make up a bunch of stuff and use one tool and get it all right the first time, or it could make up a bunch of stuff and get it wrong and then self-correct itself, right? Like it could, like I could see in this case, it could hallucinate app names, or it could hallucinate field names, that sort of thing, right? Lorenzo, I don't understand this nerdy shit, bro. That's fine, Lorenzo. How about you get the fuck out of here, huh? I don't understand why you're hanging around. You just being a troll to be a troll? Because if that's the case, we don't need you, buddy. You can kick rocks. VX trading. Have you ever used Cursor AI? If so, what is your opinion on it? I have not used Cursor AI. I did try using Copilot agent mode, which is basically the VS Code answer to Cursor. And what was my takeaway from that experience? My takeaway from that experience was, it's really cool. I think it's really neat. Very easy, Lorenzo. Very easy for me to do. Here you go. Hide user on this channel. See you later, motherfucker. God, I can't stand fucking trolls. Can't stand them. Where was I? Oh, Cursor. It was cool. Okay, or no, let's talk about like AI powered editors. So I haven't used Cursor. I used VS Code Copilot agent mode. I thought it was very cool. I couldn't get it to do what I wanted it to do. So I couldn't accomplish the task I had set out for it. It seems to be pretty aggressive with editing things it doesn't need to edit. 3 I can see how it could be very powerful for someone who doesn't know how to code, right? So if you do not know how to code, you don't understand Git, you don't understand the command line, you don't know anything about anything, I can see how Cursor or Copilot or Windsurf could be very value add. Although I think they're value add until a particular point, and then the wheels come off, and then people don't know what to do. The complexity grows too fast to manage. Our controls were of higher quality previous releases. Yeah, I would agree with that, Arkin. Unique UX. I didn't try Lovable or Cursor, but I tried Bolt, and I want to use Google Firebase because I'm telling you, try Google 2.5 Pro, Steven. Yeah, I've been using Gemini more and more. That's actually at work. That's the approved. That's like our approved official company LLM chat app or whatever is Gemini, and I've been using it personally too. But I haven't used it much for coding, which is I think what you're meaning, unique UX. I haven't used it much for coding, so I need to give that a try. Suhas, how would you deal with this kind of thing as a parent? I think I missed I think I missed one of your messages. Hold on, Suhas. I'm going through some stuff. I don't know how to say to my mom, leave me alone. So I just told her, shut up. Oh man, Suhas, I feel bad. Yeah, you don't. I mean, I'm not your dad, but if one of my sons told their mom to shut up, it would not be a fun evening in the Freeborn household. That's for sure. That would not be a fun night. I think the way to do that is to do it much more respectfully. I don't think there's anything wrong with asking your parent to leave you alone. Our kids are totally allowed to ask for alone time when they want it. They're allowed to say they don't want to talk about things. Doesn't mean we don't talk about things. We're probably going to talk about things after the fact, after they maybe have had some time to cool down or step away from it. But yeah, I wouldn't tell your mom to shut up. That's likely that path lies madness. Speaking just both from my experience as a teenager and also one as a parent. Code Brew. Yeah, one of the worst things is that it edits and breaks things that are working perfectly fine when it's trying to edit something completely different. Yeah, Code Brew, that's what I ran into Copilot. So the task that I tried to have Copilot do was this is a really odd task, and there's more context to it, but I won't get into that. Basically, what I wanted Copilot to do was I wanted to generate a Word document of a very specific size in bytes, right? I want to be able to specify a certain number of bytes, and I want to generate that size of Word document, and I want the Word document to be filled with lorem ipsum, just fake text. And it did a really good job like scaffolding the code, but then it couldn't ever get the size right of the file. And then what I found was it was like over editing the code, and then it got stuck in like a loop where like it could not figure out how to correct the problem. It just kept trying things, and everything it tried did not fix the problem, and it just felt like it was stuck in a loop, and there was no way to fix it unless I like intervened, right? I had to like clear the context window, start a new session or something, or I needed to take some sort of intervention as the user. That was my experience. Rohith Panjala, it's late and you're still streaming. Yeah, Rohith, I had a weird schedule today. I had to go into the office, so I didn't get my normal stream schedule. So I'm fitting it in now. Suhas, cheap and really high quality. Yeah, that's what I've heard. Gemini is the 2.5 Pro model is even like cheaper than some of the OpenAI models, which is kind of interesting. King Nadish. Hello, Steven. King Nadish, is your actual last name Freeborn? Yes, it is actually Freeborn. That is what's on my birth certificate. VX trading. Yeah, I agree. I just use it to speed some things up. I'm more in the cybersecurity side of things over programming, but I'm trying to get more into programming. Yeah, I think I mean I don't have any bone. Like I would never tell you not to use an AI power editor, right? Like if that's what you want to do, like go for it. You know what I mean? I would definitely not say you shouldn't do it. I think I use, like I said, I use Copilot in my editor. You know, um, I use Copilot in my editor. I use ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. I use those all the time to like bounce ideas off of or ask it to get me from like 0 to 1 on a blank page problem. So yeah, I'm definitely not anti AI. I just don't believe all the AI hype bros that are like, I rebuilt Salesforce in a day. I recreated my own Google Drive in 30 minutes. I can replace all my SaaS software that I purchased with my own versions of those same SaaS softwares. And I just vibe coded the whole thing. That I call bullshit on. Code Brew. If my non-existent son tells my non-existent wife to shut up, I'm throwing hands. Yeah, that just I'm a little bit of an old school hard ass as a parent, as a father. So yeah, the telling my wife to shut up would not go over well here. There would probably be lots of yelling. No spanking. We don't do any of that. I personally was spanked growing up. That's not a thing we do in our household. But there definitely would be some yelling, and there probably would not be any screens in my children's future for the foreseeable future. King Nadish, bro, how do you start doing what you do? I mean, I can find it on YouTube, but I don't know what to search up. I need a roadmap for noobs at computer stuff. King Nadesh, I would point you towards freecodecamp.org, right? Like, you can't know it all. You can't boil the ocean. And so if you start with something like Free Code Camp, that will get you on a path. It will help you start to learn some concrete skills. You will start to gain awareness of other technologies, and then I would hope that then sparks your curiosity to then go find out more about those things. Unfortunately, there's not really you could also, like, if you're interested in being like a .NET developer, Nick Chapas has like a .NET developer roadmap video that might be interesting for you to look at. But I always point people to Free Code Camp. I think they do wonderful work. It's free. There's a great community around it. I think it's a good place to start. Money Moves Algo said hi. Hello, Money Moves Algo. How are you doing? Your username makes me think you do some sort of algorithmic trading of some kind. I could be wrong, but that's what your username makes me think. Wowie. All right, the coast is clear. What do you mean? The coast is clear. King Nadish, Freeborn is a cool last name. It was actually a pretty cool last name, like playing football growing up. You'd like make a tackle. Freeborn's on the stop. It was pretty cool. It was unique for sure. I've never met anybody else that has the last name Freeborn. Suhas, the most American surname. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from, honestly. I don't know like what the genealogy or history is behind the last name. Freeborn feels like a fantasy character from 8th grade. Yeah, from an 8th grader. Yes, it does. It really does. I got called, a lot of people when I was like in elementary school, middle school, I would say like my name and they'd be like Freeman, and I'd be like, no, Freeborn. They're like, are you sure? You sure it's not Freeman? And I'm like, I'm 100% certain it's not Freeman. It's Freeborn. King Nadish, I think your dad was a fan of Bloodborne. It's possible. I've never heard him talk about it, but I guess it's possible. Code Brew. Honestly, what I've been seeing in the startup world is that they want you to use AI in your workflow, and they see you as and they see you as inefficient. Interesting. That's very interesting. So you're actually so Codebrew, you're actually telling me that it could almost be a liability, from a professional standpoint, if you're not familiar with AI tools or you're not actively integrating them into your workflow. That's interesting. So basically, like if you went to work for a company and they're like, "Hey, we all use Cursor," and you're like, I don't know how to use Cursor," you could be considered not a 10x dev or something. That's wild. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like that feels a little bit like the patron at a restaurant going into the kitchen and telling the chef what knives to use. In my opinion, that's what that feels like. Suhas, my dad used belt, but I will not do it on my kids. Well, Suhas, we can. I'm a product of the belt as well. The belt was used on me. I don't know. That seems like it was a very common thing. If you're a kid, if you grew up in the U.S. and your parent was a Gen Xer, it's probably a high likelihood you probably got spanked at some point. Bacon, what's a shaken? It's a bacon. Hello, Bacon. How are you? That's the best opening chat message I've had all day in chat. Suhas, I think the other person should deal with the parenting stuff. Who's the other person? Suhas. Hey, Syntax Queen, what's up? Hope you're doing well. I did see the emails you sent me, and I tried to get you some replies. Sorry it took me a minute. Today was rather full with a lot of work stuff, so it took me a minute to get back to you. Wowie, how long you use TypeScript? I started learning TypeScript like 2022, so a couple years, 2 or 3 years. I knew C# before I learned TypeScript, and I knew JavaScript before I learned TypeScript. So learning TypeScript actually was pretty straightforward because I already understood strong static typing, because in C# it is a statically typed and compiled language, and so that to me, TypeScript is very much like C# and JavaScript had a baby. Like that's sometimes what it feels like. So yeah, it was pretty straightforward to learn it. Arkin, a startup that wants its devs to use AI has to be shorted. Oh wait, they're not even qualified to just stir us. Well, fair enough. VX trading, yeah, I'm seeing that too, especially in the CS world. That is fascinating. That really has not been a thing where I work. I mean, we're a pretty small company. We don't have a huge force of engineers or developers. I think some of our developers are using Copilot a little bit. Like they just started to recently. But it hasn't really come up. Like no one's leaning on anybody to use AI tools in their workflows. Bacon, what are we working on? We're working on improving my test coverage. So my test coverage report tells me that I have very shitty test coverage at the moment. Let's see. And so I'm just going through and adding test cases that plug all the holes in my test coverage report. Which I don't know if you guys have used Vitest. Vitest is just like, it's perfection. It's like the best way to write tests for TypeScript or JavaScript apps. It's wonderful. Rohith, do you remember the syntax of every programming language you know? I tend to forget one if I spend too much time working in the other. I don't. It's not that I forget the syntax. What happens for me is I start mixing syntax. Like if I write a lot of JavaScript, like one of the things right in JavaScript is like when you define a function, You say function, and then you say returns a string, and then the way you type that is you do like string, right? And so sometimes in C Sharp, when I go back to writing C Sharp, I find myself doing something like public return a, or I guess it would be all Pascal, return a string, and then I find myself doing this, and then I'll be like, oh, wait a minute, that's not where that type goes, right? That type goes next to public. So I'll do stuff like that. If I try to write Python ever, I end up adding semicolons to everything. I write the word var like 100 times too often because I'm trying to declare a variable. So I end up mixing. I don't necessarily forget. I just find myself like mixing the syntaxes. And I think that's more about like just muscle memory, right? The parts of syntaxes that I forget when it comes to programming language is more niche stuff. Things that I don't use every day. Like in C Sharp, sometimes I forget certain link methods. Like I don't use the group by link method that much, and so I always have to go look up like what are the delegates to this thing, and how do I format them and stuff like that. So unique UX. I think these alternatives get cruel and unusual. Like I just imagine some mom shoving hot sauce down her because she refuses to spank. I'd rather just give them general safe punishment. Yeah, definitely shoving hot sauce is not a good alternative. Voldy, hey man, just woke. Hello, Voldy, how are you, man? Hope you're doing well. King to Dash. The line "There is no spoon" is from which movie? The Matrix. Yeah, I didn't know. So Unique UX got that one. Suas, AI tools are so good, can't be ignored. Yeah, they are. The frustrating thing with LLMs, that's the frustrating things with LLMs is like they're kind of like the worst database you've ever heard of, but they're valuable, so we keep using them. For sure. AI tools are not good. They're good for people with expertise. Actually, I had a long conversation at lunch with some coworkers about this today. We were talking about how like AIs have this really terrible Dunning-Kruger effect where like they just always sound so confident, and then they always agree with you all the time. And so you almost every time you're talking to an LLM, you have to constantly be suspicious of it. Like, are you sure? Which means in order to be able to like interrogate the LLM, you sort of need to know about what it is you're asking the LLM about. So I kind of agree with Unique UX. Like, if you're going to ask the LLM to write you some code, the LLM is going to portray that code as perfect to you. Like, this is 100% the right thing. And so you sort of need to know enough that you can look at it and say, no, that's wrong, or no, that particular method doesn't exist, or that class is made up, right? So I kind of agree with you. Oh, that's what you guys are already saying. Let's see. Yeah, same here. I think it's more like muscle memory. It's more of a subconscious process. Yeah, that's exactly. I start mixing things around way too much. Arkin, I don't use a programming language for a while. It leaves hotspot of my brain, and my efficiency in that language will reduce a lot. I can only keep 2 or 3. I would agree with that. Like, I'm horribly inefficient in Python. I know it, but it would take me a while to get back up to like productive, right, with it. So I feel you there. Rowan says, I was recently hacked through my iPhone and found Apache Software 2.0 in the legal notices. What should I do? I have no idea, man. Burn the phone? I don't know, dude. That's bad. I don't know if I'd ever feel safe using a phone that I knew had been hacked. Let's see. AI is good for automation, like CI/CD or data digging. Yeah, I think AI is. I don't know about automation, but I think AI can be good for helping you write CI/CD stuff, or maybe writing scripts to do data digging. But I don't know. AI seems too probabilistic to be helpful with doing deterministic automated actions, right? Like that's where you see a lot of these agentic frameworks are really just like durable workflow engines in a lot of cases. Like you're just trying to get the LLM to do things in a very deterministic and predictable way. King Nadesh, dude, I feel left out here. You're talking more. You can talk about movie stuff too, man. We can talk about John Wick. Trend Live, are you a developer? I play developer on TV or on YouTube. I build things in my free time, web development related mostly. But my day job is as a quality engineer. So I write code for doing automated testing, and then I also do quite a bit of manual testing of web apps is primarily what I test. King Nadesh, can you pin me? Why do I need to pin you, King Nadesh? Let's hack short. What you make? I'm making, yeah, Voldy answered it. I'm making an MCP server. It's a pretty interesting concept. If you're interested in generative AI, it's pretty cool. Code Brew, I gotta go, but nice hanging out here. Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Good to see you. Have a good evening. Or a good day, depending on where you are. I'm not actually sure where you are, Cold Brew. So just in general, I hope you have a good time. Arkin laughed. LLM and determinism. Well, it's funny, Arkin, because like the MCP server I'm building right now, right? This MCP server is about adding some amount of determinism to an LLM, right? Because the LLM can't be relied on to make an API call consistently. So we're basically saying, hey, here's this tool that you can generate some text input to that will reliably make that API call and return a response, right? It's like a lot of these tools and these agentic workflows and agentic frameworks, like they are trying to get the model to behave in such a way that you can count on it to accomplish a task. But a lot of the times, that just means the LLM is generating inputs to deterministic functions, right, that a developer wrote. Unique US. I took a class by John Maeda. I don't know that name, actually, about AI on LinkedIn. It was a game changer from my perspective. One thing he said was be both familiar and novel with AI/product integration. I think that's interesting. I think that's good advice. Be familiar. Ghost Hunt. What language is this? This is TypeScript. I haven't written much code in the last 30 minutes, but it's TypeScript. Suhas, my parenting properly will be like go to your mom because I'm too sensitive to punish. Between you and your wife, who is the most strict? I'd say we're probably equally strict. I think my wife has a lot more patience than I do. I try to be patient, but I feel like there's some responsibility for me as the father figure to be a little bit more of the disciplinarian. Especially since I have boys, I have 2 sons. So I just feel like there's a lot of responsibility on me to prepare them for the world they're getting ready to enter. Wowie, wait, model context protocol? That's new to me. What's that? It is a thing that Anthropic came up with to basically create a shared abstraction layer so that you could have people go out and write things like Cursor or Claude Desktop or VS Code. And then you could have other people who go out and write servers that do things, that can read the file system or talk to the GitHub API. And then you could essentially have those things share each other, right? So you could have any client talk to any MCP compliant server, and you could have any MCP server be used by any MCP client, right? So instead of every company trying to implement their own agentic framework around things, you could essentially kind of have this common layer of abstraction, so that people can build clients around it and people can build servers around it, and everyone benefits because they all speak the same intermediate language. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I think having a protocol like that makes a lot of sense. And it seems like, I think OpenAI's adopted it. It seems like there's more industry acceptance of it. So we'll see where that ends up. But it's kind of interesting. Did you hear Nolan is going to make the next round of Bond movies? That would be wonderful. Although I'll never forgive Chris Nolan for giving up on the Dark Knight series. I wanted like 10 more of those movies. Trend Live, is that different from JavaScript? It's very similar. So it's like a superset of JavaScript, right? So it's JavaScript, but we've added static types, or the ability to statically type things to it. Now, the TypeScript still gets compiled, or transpiled, I guess I should say, to JavaScript. And so at runtime, the types don't exist. But while you're developing, you have static typing, which allows you to do really nice dev experience stuff, right? So you can do nice refactorings, and you can move things around and know what things need to be changed and what files and stuff like that. So it can make for a much better dev experience when you're developing in TypeScript. Rowan, any news? I don't know what you're talking about. King Nadish, did you not see I use Arch, bro? Well, if I didn't see it, I know you'll tell me about it, because that's what Arch users do. I don't use any Linux distro on a daily basis, and the only Linux distro I have a lot of experience with is Ubuntu, because that's what I run my VPSs with. Rowan says, Trend Live, you're not answering my questions. I think I'm just delayed, Trend Live. I apologize. Arkin, you can decrease the temperature. That's true. Sorry, I fell behind in the chat a little bit. John is currently the Vice President of Design and Artificial Intelligence at Microsoft. Well, then, that is definitely someone to listen to. For sure. I had 20, got robbed, just good, heartbreaking. I'm sorry you're having a hard time with your phone, Rowan. That sucks, man. I do not envy you. I want to educate myself, safe. I'm 23, did computer science at school, never thought I'd be victim to a hack. I don't know if it was phishing or an injection attack on my phone. I really don't know. Maybe my Wi-Fi. There's remotely in my legal notes as well. Sorry, Steven, for filling up the chat. Yeah, no worries. I don't think I can give you much advice, though. Because other than, like, don't click on suspicious links. Don't accept things from random people you don't know. You know, like all the standard cybersecurity sort of stuff. Yeah, I'm sorry that happened to you, man. It really sucks. Gaming Conmat. Yo, what do you think about Java and C++ or C and C#? So, Gaming Conmat, I love C#. I'm a shill for C#. I think every developer who loves TypeScript should go and try C#. Yeah, so I'm definitely a shill for C#. I don't know. I have seen Java and thought that looks a lot like C#. I've never written any Java, though. C++ and C, I really don't have much opinions on those because I don't really do anything that requires needing to use a language that allows for manual memory management. So I don't really have a need for them myself, other than maybe to learn them as like a learning experience. Let's hack short. Vim user is crazy. What? No, man. It's NeoVim. It's not Vim. It's NeoVim. Right? Does that make it less crazy? Boldy, how many hours are you going to be streaming? I'll probably stream till midnight, right? That'll take me, well, I might go a little longer. Maybe till 12:30. I'll go for 2 hours probably. Oh, nice, Voldy. Thank you for getting Rowan in touch with maybe some people who can help him. I really appreciate that. Super nice. Suas, from a guy who works in industry, what advice will you give me to make projects to get me a job or something? So Suhas, I always feel a little bit bad because I don't have really good advice. I don't have really good advice. The way I got into tech was I got a job as a support analyst at the company I work for, so sort of an entry-level job. I learned everything I possibly could about the product we make and how people use it, the platform and how people use it. That then allowed me to apply that knowledge to doing manual testing in our quality department. And then during that time, I was aggressively learning how to code and trying to upskill my technical knowledge of web development. And so it was just kind of a opportunity meets preparedness thing where the company was like, hey, we want to do more sophisticated testing related things. And I was like, oh, well, I know how to code and I know how to use Selenium. I know how to use Playwright. I've been doing some of that stuff on my own. Let me take a shot at it. Right? And so that's sort of how I came into the role that I'm in, which I know that's not really a replicable thing for everyone. If I was starting, like if I was still in my old job and I was trying to get a job, if I was to put myself into those shoes, Suas, I think my recommendation would be to figure out what companies you want to work for and then aggressively attack whatever technologies they use, right? So like Garmin is right up the road from where I live, their headquarters, and which kind of, I mean, that geographically locates me, but if you, if I wanted to go work at Garmin, I would scan their job openings and figure out what tech stacks they use, and I would start building projects with those technologies, and then just start applying and networking aggressively within that company to try to get a job. That's how I would approach it. And I would just replicate that with any company that I put on my radar that I want to work for. And then I think you should also be humble. Like, be willing to take a job that maybe isn't exactly what you want to just get your foot in the door, right? Like kind of like what I did, right? Like, be willing to take a support job, get your foot in the door, and prove yourself. I know that's not like the most straightforward advice, but that's what I would do. Aiden Rod protocol, yes, model context protocol specifically. Voldy, go for it, man. Yeah, man. Post whatever Discord links you want. No problem here. King Edition. Mern stack? Nothing wrong with the Mern stack, man. I think the Mern stack was overpowered and is overpowered still because it depends on just knowing a single programming language, really. I mean, obviously you have to know HTML and CSS and the specifics of the framework, but like you just need to know JavaScript, and then you can do everything. MD, good morning, sir. Hello, MD. It's actually it's evening here where I am. It's 11:41 p.m. But Good morning to you. Let's hack short. Why not Golang? So, not really anything intentional. I started to learn C sharp primarily because the place I work is a .NET shop primarily. Like our our project, our software is largely a .NET project. So that's why I started to learn C sharp. If I had ended up working at some place that was written in Golang, I probably would have started by learning Go. I have been trying to learn Go recently, and I have nothing against it. It seems like a really nice language. Seems very straightforward. It seems like they try to keep it very simple, right? Not a ton of complexity, which I think is great. Still wouldn't consider myself even like proficient in it, but I'm learning. Unique UX, he was born for you guys. All he does is win. Oh, I do feel like I won the lottery. You know, like I was born in the U.S. I was born to white middle class parents, you know, in a relatively nice small town, right? So like I did kind of win the lottery. I never forget that. Like I could have got born into a lot worse circumstances, right? The extra, no, okay, Rowan, Suhas, cool. Yeah, Suhas. I don't know if that's super helpful advice I gave you, but maybe you find that helpful. Unique UX. My kids are on spring break, so I built a doghouse and mowed and shit this week. Man, that's a late spring break. Our spring break was like the third week in March. Like the kids only have, looking at the calendar, I think my kids only have like 3 weeks of school left. Yeah, 3 weeks. You guys have a late spring break, but it sounds like you're playing. It sounds like you're getting a lot done considering your kids aren't on spring break. Gaming con Matt. I'm still young. I'm 16, and the school I go to is a magnet school. There's practically a major you can choose from, and I'm in game development. I learned C sharp and a bit of Java, but it's basically the same. I've had multiple people tell me that C sharp and Java are very similar. I don't know what a magnet school is, but that sounds very cool that you could pick to just study game development in high school. That seems awesome. Wow. Hey, man, I'm sorry for giving a lot of questions, but promise this is the last one. Dude, you can ask as many questions as you want. That's the whole reason to stream, right? It's called Code, Coffee, and Chat, so don't ever be worried about asking questions, man. I understand if you don't want to answer it, but do you have a degree or just a certificate? So I have a degree in biochemistry. I have a bachelor's of science in biochemistry. Before this, I was a research and development scientist for a large food company. That's what I did before I got into tech. But not really, I don't really have any certificates technology related. All of it's just self-taught skills and ability to problem solve and learn and then apply those learnings. Garrett Simpson, it's missing proper stack traces and a few other things, but Go is definitely great. I preach Rust to everyone though. So Garrett, I started going through the Rustlang book in January, and then I've been bad about keeping up with it. But that's definitely I'm peaked, and interested in Rust, in learning Rust. I did not know that Go doesn't have proper stack traces. That piques my interest as well. I didn't know that was a thing. Suhas, would you like to live stream leak code problems? Probably not. I mean, the closest thing to leak code that I've enjoyed doing is the advent of code. But I like doing that because it's seasonal, it's themed, it feels fun. There's a bunch of other people doing it at the same time. But I don't think I want to just sit and grind leak code. I think I'd much rather do this, like work on my projects and talk with you all. You know, I wouldn't mind like someone maybe gives me a puzzle or something every now and again, and maybe we work through like how would I solve that, if I even can solve it. But yeah, I'm definitely not your elite code streamer. Unique UX, they go to private school. Ah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Foldy says, I preach. Hold on. Gaming Con Masters. A month ago, I made a calculator in JavaScript. I used W3 School to references. Now I'm about. That's awesome, dude. Well, it sounds like you're well on your way, dude. Foldy, I preach TS and Python. I like TypeScript. The Python thing is tough, dude. I'm learning though. I'm gonna have to, if I want to do more interesting things with machine learning and AI other than just using foundation models, I'm gonna have to get comfortable with Python. So that is a pill I'm currently swallowing. Magnet schools are public schools that offer specialized programs to attract students from different areas. Oh, interesting. I didn't know those existed in the U.S., so that's news to me. Well, and I'm also assuming you're in the U.S. You might not be in the U.S. Are you actually drinking coffee at 11 p.m.? I am. I just finished my shot of espresso, so I most definitely am. Unique UX. I know people with degrees who don't have a portfolio or real world experience. It's crazy. Like how? Yeah, I think you got to have both, right? And honestly, if I today, I'm not saying I'm capable of doing it or that I'm going to do it or whatever, but if I had a business or if I built a small SaaS and I got to the point where I needed to hire somebody to help me with that product, I don't think I would ask them, like, what's your degree? I don't think I would ask them about where they studied. I think what I would ask them is I would want them to tell me about a project they had built with the same tech stack that I use, right? Like I would want to hear that they know things about the code that they were gonna, if I hired them, they would come and work on it. I'd want to have some confidence that they would be familiar with it. Not that they'd understand everything, but that they could talk about it and have some awareness of it, right? Yeah, I don't know. That just seems to me like it's a much better proxy to somebody's capabilities. But what do I know? I'm no expert. Which IDE do you use? This is NeoVim, but I also use VS Code, Jonas. I use VS Code still too, here and there. But I've been using NeoVim the last 3 months or so. Last 4 months. Jonas, thank you. I knew I remembered this UI. Yes, it is. The thing about NeoVim is it's fun, right? Like when I watch people edit in NeoVim, it seems like they're playing a game. Unique UX says puzzles inbound. Oh no. David, you also write Golang too? I do a little. I know a little bit. So I've been trying to learn, but I don't. I haven't built anything substantial. What Voldy said. Exactly what Voldy said. Suas, I think you can achieve the same thing with Go. I'm not sure I remember what we were talking about when you said that. Yeah, Garrett, I would agree with you. I would agree with what Garrett said about wanting to learn more about code. Just remember, it's more about learning the skill than getting the degree. 100% agree with that. As a self-taught as well. I don't have a degree. I'm self-taught as well, Garrett. Wowie. And people always mock Python as being too easy. Well, Python is definitely one of the more friendlier languages to learn. But I also think JavaScript's a friendly language to learn. My problem with Python is largely the syntax. The lack of semicolons, the lack of braces, forced spaces to indent. Yeah, it's just a stylistic thing. But I'm slowly getting over it. COD Newbie. Hello, COD Newbie. I didn't know you were in the chat, man. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. You could be like me and have a degree, portfolio, experience, and can't land a Western job. I'm sorry about that, dude. I'm sure that's very frustrating. Getting a job in any industry is a hustle. Yeah, it's a hustle. Garrett says, I work using it professionally every day. It is great for prototyping small, non-important project, but it's so inefficient. More importantly, though, people learning to code starting with Python aren't actually learning software engineering. I always recommend people start with C. Really? You recommend C to start with, Garrett? That seems... I don't know. I would recommend JavaScript. And I also don't know if I would agree with the fact that, like, just because you're writing things in Python, you aren't actually learning software engineering. I don't think I necessarily agree with that. Because there's some really big projects, really big products out there that are written with Python. So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. White space reliance is cancerous. Well, VX trading is loading up on the caffeine. Celsius, 3 cups of coffee. That boy's gonna get it. You're getting up and go. So I'll create a puzzle from top of your brain. I am bored. And also rank me. I can't rank you, and I'm not going to be able to do that. Gaming Matt, you should Z#. It's like C#, but it's better. I've never heard of it. Are you just playing with me? Not getting a job making money is harder. C is too hard. Garrett Simpson, WTF. I think that's about Python. Yeah. About Python, about writing code in Python is not software engineering. COD newbie. I need to know when you do these sessions. I get bored working alone. I try to do them at 2 o'clock Central Standard. That's when I aim. That's like I try to take lunch at work during the work week, and I try to stream over my lunch break. But sometimes they end up at night, and they're really unplanned. Like, if I'm streaming this late at night, something has gone wrong during the day. Z# is actually a thing? Hold on. What just happened to my window there? I think I just... Hold on. I lost my window. Z#? Oh shit, it really is a thing. Oh, it says it's no longer in development. This project was never meant to go beyond the scope of a simple thing I could make Pong in. That's hilarious. He was like, I just was trying to do something fun, and then people took off and ran with it. Yeah, it definitely has a C# feel, doesn't it? Except this doesn't. The missing parentheses here. That doesn't feel like C#, but yeah, it doesn't sound like this sounds like a toy language, but interesting nonetheless. Garrett, you can't override built-in types. You can't decide if variables are passed by reference or by value. You cannot directly ask us pointers. All standard interpreted languages problems. I mean, you could call them problems, but I mean, people still can build with it. You know, even without those language features or functionality, right? I understand. I mean, I understand taking issue with not having the ability to do those things. I just don't necessarily think that disqualifies it as a grown-up language, in my opinion. But I don't disagree that learning a lower level language isn't helpful from a learning perspective. Would not disagree with you there. Garrett Simpson. When you learn software engineering truly, you learn how your code is linked, compiled, and assembled for your architecture and how the CPU processes the instructions. I don't know, Garrett. That seems a little excessive to me. And maybe other people will agree with Garrett and disagree with me, but I don't necessarily think in order to be a software engineer, you need to understand exactly all the layers of abstraction all the way down to how the CPU processes assembly. I don't know. I would also think that the majority of software engineers in the world probably couldn't actually tell you. I can't tell you. Not that I would necessarily consider myself a software engineer, but I don't know. Maybe I have a lower. Maybe I think lower of the people who are building software in the modern world than I should. But that to me, that's almost like akin to saying you shouldn't be able to drive a car unless you understand how your engine works and how the parts are machined and how the information gets entered into the CNC machine that cuts your parts. I don't know. There's some level of that where I think, yes, it's always great to know more, but I don't know if you necessarily need to know that deep down the stack in order to consider yourself a developer or a software engineer. Have you heard of the chicken coding language? No, I've not heard of that. Unique UX. I would like to learn Go, to be honest. Yeah, I think Go's pretty cool. I want to build something though a little bit more substantial with it. Like, I haven't thought of a good project to build with it, but I need to build something that's actually meaningful with it, other than just tutorials. I'm only angry with Python mostly from a learning perspective. That's fair. I mean, any high-level language abstracts a lot of things from you. I mean, all technology. That's the point of all technology, to some extent, is to abstract things, right? It's why you use Nginx and you don't write your own HTTP server every time you need an HTTP server. Do the developers learn how to debug their own applications? They should. Yeah, developers should know how to debug their own applications for sure. Neo AI Studios. Hey, what exciting things are you building lately? This thing that I'm working on right now has been kind of the thing that's been occupying most of my time. I don't know if you consider it exciting, but it's interesting, I think. Make WannaCry? No, dude, I don't want to go to jail. No, thank you. Please, no Minecraft mod. Yeah, Garrett. Okay, Garrett. I can get that, man. You're encouraging others to learn more. Yeah, and Scott, I don't know if you're familiar, Garrett, with a gentleman named Scott Hanselman. He always talks about how, like, you should always try to go one layer deeper than where you work, right? So if, like, you know, if you normally write web apps, try to understand how an HTTP server works, right? That, like, kind of go one level deeper. So totally get what you mean. Unique UX. Now we're playing word games, aren't we? Yeah. Refuse. Yeah. Software engineer. Maybe software architect. Yeah. Ethan. Oh, I meant want to try. No, I'm not creating a virus. Computer use PCMs. I'm not sure what PCMs is. Steven, you gave me an idea. I want to make my own HTTP server. Go for it, Voldy. I mean, I definitely think, like, there's some fun projects like that you do just for the fact that you want to understand, right? But, like, I guess what I was trying to get at with that is we all use software We all use pieces of technology that abstract things away, right? To some extent. Fire tour doctor. What are you doing? I'm trying to write some code. Let's actually all write some code. I haven't written some code in a while. I'm actually writing tests. Unit tests at the moment. Let's write one. Let's say we'll do the same thing we just did, but we'll use a formula. We'll say test. It should format a formula field correctly. Whoops, I missed. Copilot actually wrote that test. Excuse me. There we go. How many lines are we up to? Look at that. 127 lines. We're very productive this evening. Very productive. Whoops, filter. Remember when you made me make our oh no, you're talking to somebody else. Have you heard about Minecraft PCs? Those are crazy. People made CPU, GPU, RAM there in Minecraft made with Redstone. That's it. Made you see in the Minecraft PC. I did hear about that people were building like legit computers with Redstone. I did hear about that. That's wild. Those people have way too much time on their hands. Let's see. If on Flash, I had a college project rejected. I had to write a website using HTML with 4 weeks left. It was due yesterday, and I'm resting. Weeks of no sleep. Now slept. Didn't know how to code it all before that too. So is that a good story, like a happy story, or a bad story? Because it seems like you know how to code now, but your project got rejected. So I'm conflicted. Loaf, did you finish the unit tests from yesterday? That's what I'm working on right now. That's what I'm working on right now, actually. So I have not finished them. Because yesterday, instead of doing yesterday after work, after I put the kids to bed, I didn't work on this. I worked on building a large language model. I wrote some Python code yesterday instead of doing this. Naveen, brother, what are you building? I am building a model context protocol server, if you know what that is. The use case is allowing MCP clients to talk to a piece of software called OnSpring. Right? So that's most of the I don't